This is the moment the Second Amendment died on a Minneapolis street corner. Not in a gun control bill, not in a Supreme Court ruling, not in a blue state legislature. It died when federal agents shot a man who was legally carrying a firearm, who had a valid permit, who never drew his weapon, who was disarmed before they killed him. And the administration's response was to say that carrying a legal gun near law enforcement means they are justified in killing you. You thought the Second Amendment protected your right to bear arms. You thought a permit to carry meant something. You were wrong. In this special report, we are going to break down how the Trump administration just declared war on gun owners. We are going to show you the statements from federal officials that eviscerate concealed carry rights. We are going to expose the fracture within the gun rights movement over this killing. And we are going to explain why Minneapolis may have done more damage to the Second Amendment than any Democrat ever could. Saturday, January 24th, 2026. Alex Pretti is walking through his neighborhood in Minneapolis. He is a 37-year-old ICU nurse at the VA hospital. He is a federal employee. He has no criminal record. He has a valid Minnesota permit to carry. He is armed, legally, constitutionally, with government permission documented on a card in his wallet. He sees ICE agents pursuing someone into a donut shop. Like many Minneapolis residents, he stops to observe and record. He is across the street filming on his phone. Agents approach him. One pushes a woman to the ground. Pretti steps forward to help her. He is pepper sprayed. Multiple agents tackle him. As many as 8 federal officers pin him to the ground. Video shows one agent remove Pretti's gun from his holster while he is face down on the pavement. The agent stands up holding the weapon and steps away. Less than 1 second later, another agent fires into Pretti's back. 10 shots. The gun was already secured. Pretti never drew it. Pretti never pointed it at anyone. Pretti was disarmed, prone, and surrounded when he was killed. Now listen to what federal officials said afterward. Bill Asaley, First Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, posted this on social media. If you approach law enforcement with a gun, there's a high likelihood they will be legally justified in shooting you. Read that again. A Trump-appointed federal prosecutor just told every gun owner in America that carrying a legal firearm near police means they can kill you and it will be justified. The National Rifle Association responded, and their response should terrify every Second Amendment supporter. This sentiment from the First Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California is dangerous and wrong. Responsible public voices should be awaiting a full investigation, not making generalizations and demonizing law-abiding citizens. The NRA called a Trump administration official dangerous and wrong. When the NRA and Black Lives Matter agree that federal agents went too far, something fundamental has broken. FBI Director Kash Patel went further. No one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines. Think about what the FBI director just said. Carrying a loaded gun with extra ammunition is evidence of violent intent. Not evidence, not threatening behavior, just possession. By this logic, every concealed carry holder in America is a potential terrorist. Every responsible gun owner who carries a backup magazine is planning violence. This is not a pro-gun administration talking. This is an administration that just told 20 million permit holders that their legal weapons make them targets. The Department of Homeland Security claimed it is unlawful for protesters to bring a firearm to a demonstration. This is false. The Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus responded directly. Every peaceable Minnesotan has the right to keep and bear arms, including while attending protests, acting as observers, or exercising their First Amendment rights. These rights do not disappear when someone is lawfully armed, and they must be respected and protected at all times. There is no prohibition on a permit holder carrying a firearm, loaded, with multiple magazines at a protest or rally in Minnesota. This is basic constitutional law. The First Amendment protects your right to protest. The Second Amendment protects your right to carry. The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable seizure. The Fifth Amendment protects your right to due process before the government takes your life. Alex Pretti was exercising all of these rights, and the government killed him for it. The gun rights community is fracturing over this. Gun Owners of America called for a complete, transparent, and prompt investigation. The Second Amendment Foundation called for answers. The Liberal Gun Club, which represents left-leaning gun owners, demanded accountability. The Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus was deeply concerned and called for investigation by both state and federal authorities. But the NRA itself issued a contradictory response. While they criticized the U.S. Attorney's statement, their initial statement blamed Minnesota Democrats and Pretti himself. For months, Radical progressive politicians like Tim Walz have incited violence against law enforcement officers who are simply trying to do their jobs. Unsurprisingly, these calls to dangerously interject oneself into legitimate law enforcement activities have ended in violence. So the NRA simultaneously criticized federal overreach and blamed the victim. They defended the Second Amendment in theory, while suggesting Pretti should not have exercised it in practice. This is the incoherence of an organization caught between its stated principles and its political alliances. For decades, the gun rights movement has warned about government overreach. They have argued that armed citizens are the last defense against tyranny. They have insisted that the Second Amendment exists precisely to resist an oppressive state. Now, an oppressive state is killing armed citizens, and significant portions of the movement are making excuses because the state is run by their political allies. Principles, it turns out, only matter when your opponents violate them. Let me be clear about the legal situation. Minnesota is a shall-issue state. If you meet the requirements, they must give you a permit. Pretti met the requirements. He had a permit. Minnesota allows open and concealed carry. There is no prohibition on carrying at protests or public gatherings. Minnesota has no duty to retreat in public places. You are not required to flee before defending yourself. Federal law does not override state carry laws for civilians. ICE agents cannot create weapons-free zones simply by being present. Pretti broke no law. He violated no regulation. He exercised rights that the Constitution guarantees and that his state explicitly protects. And the government killed him anyway. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino defended the shooting by noting that Pretti had a loaded handgun. Having a loaded handgun is now justification for execution. Not drawing it, not aiming it, having it. Bovino said the Border Patrol agents are going to more than likely be on administrative duty, but they will remain Border Patrol agents. No termination, no prosecution. The agent who shot a disarmed man in the back 10 times remains employed by the federal government. There is a term for what we are witnessing. It is called selective enforcement. When armed citizens support the administration, their gun rights are sacred. When armed citizens oppose the administration, those same rights become evidence of criminal intent. This is not how constitutional rights work. Rights are not contingent on political alignment. Rights do not disappear when you disagree with the government. If carrying a gun near federal agents justifies killing you, then the Second Amendment means nothing. It becomes a privilege granted to regime supporters and revoked from everyone else. Chris Mattel was a Republican candidate for Minnesota governor. He was also an attorney who previously represented ICE agents. After Pretti's killing, he dropped out of the race. His statement was extraordinary. He could not support the Republican Party for what he called retribution. He blamed national Republicans for making it nearly impossible for a Republican to win statewide election in Minnesota. A Republican lawyer who defended ICE agents quit his campaign because the killing of Alex Pretti was indefensible. This is not a partisan issue anymore. This is a fundamental question about what rights mean in America. The Philando Castile case should have been a warning. In 2016, Castile, a black man with a valid carry permit, was shot by police after informing them he had a firearm in his vehicle. The officer was acquitted. The NRA was largely silent. Their response was tepid, delayed, and carefully worded to avoid offending police. Gun rights advocates noticed. They asked why the organization that claims to defend all gun owners seemed uninterested when the victim was black. Now the victim is white. The victim was a federal employee. The victim had no criminal record. The victim was disarmed before being shot. And still, portions of the movement hesitate because the shooters wore MAGA and the victim was at a protest the administration opposes. This is the test. Either the Second Amendment protects everyone, regardless of politics, regardless of what cause they support, regardless of what the government thinks of them. Or it protects no one because selective enforcement of rights is no protection at all. The implications extend beyond gun rights. If the government can kill you for legal carry, they can kill you for legal speech. They can kill you for legal assembly. They can kill you for any legal activity they find inconvenient. Rights are interconnected. When one falls, the others become vulnerable. Alex Pretti was exercising his First Amendment right to observe and record. He was exercising his Second Amendment right to carry. He was protected by the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable seizure. He was entitled under the Fifth Amendment to due process. The government violated all of these rights simultaneously when they killed him. They created a precedent that federal agents can disregard the Bill of Rights entirely if they claim to feel threatened. This is not law enforcement. This is authoritarianism with a badge. We are monitoring the investigation. The state of Minnesota is pushing for access. Federal officials are obstructing. A judge has ordered evidence preserved. But whatever the investigation finds, the statements from federal officials stand. They have told America that legal gun ownership near law enforcement is grounds for execution. The Second Amendment community must decide what this means. Do they defend the right, even when the victim is politically inconvenient, or do they reveal that their principles were always conditional, always dependent on who holds power and who the victim supports? Alex Pretti had a permit. Alex Pretti followed the law. Alex Pretti never drew his weapon. Alex Pretti is dead, and the administration that claims to support gun rights is defending his killers. This is the moment. This is the test. The Second Amendment means what it says, or it means nothing at all. Choose. There is a deeper irony here that gun rights advocates should consider. For years, the Second Amendment movement has aligned itself with law enforcement. Blue Lives Matter flags fly next to Gadsden flags. Thin blue line stickers share bumpers with NRA decals. The assumption has always been that police are allies in the fight to preserve gun rights. But police, including federal agents, are the enforcement arm of the state. When the state decides that your legal gun makes you a threat, police will be the ones who act on that decision. The founders understood this. The Second Amendment was not written to protect hunters. It was not written for sport shooters. It was written because an armed citizenry is the ultimate check on government power. That check only works if citizens are willing to assert their rights against government agents. And that assertion only matters if the government is not allowed to kill you for making it. Alex Pretti asserted his rights. He carried legally. He observed publicly. He recorded freely. He helped a woman who had been pushed to the ground. The government killed him for it. If the Second Amendment does not protect Alex Pretti, who does it protect? If your rights disappear the moment you need them most, were they ever really rights at all? The gun rights movement stands at a crossroads. It can continue to align with whoever holds power, excusing abuses when committed by allies, or it can stand on principle, defending the right even when doing so is politically inconvenient. Philando Castile was the warning. Alex Pretti is the test. The next victim could be anyone. Your carry permit is a piece of paper. It means exactly as much as the government decides it means on any given day. That is not a right. That is a permission slip. And permission can be revoked at any time for any reason by anyone with a badge and a gun. This is the moment. This is the choice. The Second Amendment for everyone, or the Second Amendment for no one. There is no middle ground. Choose.